Hello everyone, welcome to your English session. Today we are going to deal with the language section, which is the second section of the National Baccalaureate exam. So by the end of this session, you will be able to give appropriate answers to language tasks of a National Baccalaureate exam sample. So let's start. The language section takes 15 points out of 40. And this is the first task. A. Give the correct form of the words in brackets. Number 1. Morocco was the first country in the world to recognize the independence of the USA. Here we have word form, so we need to give the correct word form of independence. So here we have the. Normally after the, and in this sentence, we need a noun. Independent is an adjective, and we need the noun of this adjective. So do you know the noun of independent? Yes, it's independence. So the answer is Morocco was the first country in the world to recognize the independence of the USA. Number 2, developing renewable energy is among the priorities of the Moroccan government. Renew here is what? What is the word form? Yes, it is a verb. Here we have energy, and normally energy is described by an adjective. So we need the adjective of the verb renew. So what is the adjective of renew? Can you find the answer? Yes. It is renewable. So this is the answer. Developing renewable energy is among the priorities of the Moroccan government. Okay? So let's move to the second task. B. Fill in the gaps with appropriate words or phrases from the list. Number 1. Many in the United States have been struck by the hurricane this year. We have problems, disasters, and areas. In order to find the correct answer, we need to ask ourselves, what does the hurricane strike? Does it strike problems, or does it strike disasters, or does it strike areas? Yes? It strikes areas, it strikes places. So the correct answer is many areas in the United States have been struck by the hurricane this year. Let's go to number 2. MSF, Médecins Sans Frontières. We have phrasal verbs, we have makes up, stands for, and calls for. MSF is an acronym. It has the initials of these words, okay? So an acronym, does it make, or does it stand, or does it call for? It stands for. So this is the correct answer. MSF stands for Médecins Sans Frontières. C. Fill in the gaps with appropriate words or phrases from the list. Here we have 2 sentences. We are going to give the answer to each one. So let's start with number 1. Moha al-Hussein, everyone calls the maestro, died in February 2016. So here you have relative pronouns. You have whose, whom, and which. So if you still remember the uses of relative pronouns, whose is usually used as a relative pronoun to indicate possession, or before nouns instead of a possessive expression. Whom is used to refer to people when the person is the object of the verb. And which is used in relative clauses to refer to animals and to things. So in this sentence, we don't have any reference to animals or things, and we don't have reference to a possession or to a possessive concession, but we have the person as the object of the verb. Here we have Moha al-Hussein, everyone calls the maestro. The meaning of this sentence is that everyone calls Muha al-Hussein the maestro. So here we have the person is the object of the verb. That's why we need to use whom. So this is the answer. Muha al-Hussein, whom everyone calls the maestro, died in February 2016. So let's do number 2. Many people today can't imagine without their mobile phones. We have to live, live in, and we live. Now, if you paid attention, we have the expression can't imagine. And with the expression can't imagine, we use the gerund, which is a verb plus ing form. So the answer is many people today can't imagine. Here we have living. We have the verb plus ing form. Can't imagine living without their mobile phones. Okay? So let's move to the following task. D. Put the verbs in brackets in the correct tense. So here you are dealing with the verb form. Number 1. By the end of this year, my daughter obtained her master's degree in nuclear physics. When you are dealing with verb form, you need to pay attention to the time expressions that you have. So for number 1, you have by the end of this year. And this expression is used with a tense that you know. So can you guess the tense? Yes, it is future perfect. And what is the structure of the future perfect? Yes, it is will, have, plus past participle. So we need to use will have and then to add the past participle of the verb. By the end of this year, my daughter will have, and we need the past participle of obtain, which is obtained, her master's degree in nuclear physics. Okay? So let's do number 2. Layla first met her husband when she was at university in 1996. So as I said, you need to pay attention to time expressions. Here we have was, and we have 1996. This indicates that this sentence is in the past simple. When you are dealing with the past simple, pay attention to regular verbs and irregular verbs. So Layla first met. Meet, is it regular or irregular verb? Yes, it is irregular verb. And the past simple of meet is, yes, it is met. So Layla first met her husband when she was at university in 1996. E. Rewrite the sentences beginning with the words given. So here you have 3 sentences and you need to rewrite them using the words given in each one. So let's deal with the first one. Ahmed Sfraoui wrote La Boîte à Merveilles in 1954. Here you have La Boîte à Merveilles. So if you paid attention, Ahmed Sfraoui wrote La Boîte à Merveilles. Here it is an object. And in the given sentence, it is a subject. So when the object becomes the subject, we are dealing with the passive voice. And what is the structure for the passive voice? Do you still remember? Yes, we use the appropriate form of the verb to be plus past participle. So let's do it. Ahmed Sfraoui wrote La Boîte à Merveilles in 1954. You need to focus on the verb of the sentence. Now the verb that we have is wrote. You already know that the infinitive of wrote is write, past is wrote, and past participle is written. So the tense of this verb is the past simple. We need to use the subject, so here we have the subject. We need to follow it by verb to be. So we need to use the tense of this verb and put it for verb to be. So we have past simple, we need the past simple of verb to be, which is was or were. Here we have a title, so we are going to use was. We need now the past participle. So which past participle are we going to use? We are going to use the past participle of this verb. The past participle of wrote is written. So we say was written. Who wrote La Boîte à Merveilles? La Boîte à Merveilles was written by Ahmed Sfriwi. When? In 1954. So this is the answer. Number 2. Despite being an expert, Jim couldn't recover his files from his hard disk. You have although Jim. This is a concessive clause. And the concessive clause expresses an idea that suggests the opposite of the main part of the sentence. So as you have in this sentence, we have that Jim is an expert, but he couldn't recover his files from his hard disk. So we need to use although plus a subject and a verb. We already have the subject here. We have although, subject. So we need the verb. Which verb are we going to use? Here we have being, be the verb to be in ing form, and we have couldn't recover. The verb is in the past simple. So we are going to use the verb to be in the past simple, and it becomes although Jim was. He was what? He was an expert. So although Jim was an expert, and we need to use a comma. A comma is very important here, because when the although clause comes before the main clause, we usually put a comma at the end of the clause. But when the main clause comes first, we don't need to use a comma. So here we have the although clause, it comes before the main clause, so we need to use a comma. It's very important. So although Jim was an expert, here we have the subject, we have the name, so we need to use the subject pronoun. Although Jim was an expert, he, and we finish the sentence. He couldn't recover his files from his hard disk. So let's move to number 3. We lost the game because our goalkeeper was not in good physical condition. We have if. So when we have if, we are going to deal with conditional sentence. A conditional sentence uses an imagined situation. So let's first find the real situation. The real situation in this sentence is that our goalkeeper was not in good physical condition. And the result was that we lost the game. If we want to use a conditional sentence starting with if, we need to have an imagined situation. So what would the imagined situation be? In the real situation, we have our goalkeeper was not in good physical condition. The imagined situation is going to be our goalkeeper was in good physical condition. The result is going to be different. In the real situation, we have the result, we lost the game. For the imagined situation, the result is we didn't lose the game. So for this case, we are going to use the third conditional, or what we call conditional type 3. We use the third conditional when we imagine a different past where something did or did not happen, and we imagine a different result. So we use if plus past perfect plus would or could or might plus have plus past participle. This is the structure of the third conditional. If plus past perfect is the conditional clause. And could, would, could, might plus have plus past participle is the main clause. So let's go back to our sentence. We lost the game. We lost the game is the main clause. And the conditional clause is our goalkeeper was not in good physical condition. So we need to start with the conditional clause followed by the main clause. We have if, so if our goalkeeper. But here we need to use the past perfect. We use the past perfect of the verb was. So what is the past perfect of the verb to be? It's had plus past participle. So it's had been. So if our goalkeeper had been in good physical condition, and again, you need to use a comma because it's very important. Why? Because we have the conditional clause first. Whenever you have the conditional clause coming before the main clause, you use the comma. So if our goalkeeper had been in good physical condition, we are going to use now the main clause with this structure, would or could or might plus have plus past participle. We wouldn't have lost the game because the sentence is already in the negative form. Or we can say, if our goalkeeper had been in good physical condition, we could have won the game. So this is conditional type 3. Let's move to F. Match each expression with its appropriate function. So you have expressions and you have their functions and you need to match them. Karim will definitely join us this evening. Is it A, expressing regret, B, expressing apology, C, expressing certainty, or D, expressing opinion? Here we have the expression will definitely. And when we have will definitely, we are using an expression of certainty. So number 1 is C, expressing certainty. Number 2, I shouldn't have tried to fix the computer myself. Is it A, expressing regret, B, expressing apology, or D, expressing opinion? Here we have shouldn't have tried. We have the structure of should plus have plus past participle, which is an expression that we use, which is a structure that we use to express regret. So the answer is A, expressing regret. So this is the final task. Write appropriate responses to the following situations. Number 1, reading books is better than watching movies. Here you need to express your opinion. Number 2, your friend can't decide whether to buy a tablet or a laptop. Here you need to give advice. So in order to express your opinion, you can use expressions such as, in my opinion, I think that, as far as I'm concerned, to my mind, for me, I believe that, it seems to me that, as I see it, I feel strongly that, and I would say that. So you can say, in my opinion, reading books is better than watching movies. And in this example, you can have different and many possible answers. Number 2, your friend can't decide whether to buy a tablet or a laptop. Here you need to give advice. So in order to give advice, you can use expressions like, if I were you, I would. Why don't you? You'd better. You should. Or you shouldn't. If you take my advice, you will. It might be a good idea to. I advise you to. And have you thought about? So here are some examples. If I were you, I would buy a tablet because tablets are more portable and you can use them to browse the web, read ebooks, play games, and listen to music. Or you can say, it might be a good idea to buy a laptop because laptops are better for creating documents, sending emails, and using powerful software. So for this task, you can have many possible answers depending on how you express yourself and the expressions that you use. So this is the end of this section. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Take care of yourselves. Good luck and goodbye.